Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix, and welcome to another mod guide series. This time we're digging into the 501st Legion, starting with its leader. This guy is one of the best attackers in the game. He takes some pretty demanding mods to make the most of him, but he uses every little bit you give him. He was a Galactic Legend before we had Galactic Legends. You can set him on defense, and he demands either a tricky counter, an overwhelming counter, or like a Galactic Legend to beat. We've been using him on offense to take down GLs, and some teams that GLs struggle against, even to this day. I give you General Skywalker. Now, for the purposes of this video, I will be calling him Gas, because General Anakin Skywalker, I guess, is the full name, and that's just kind of the community acronym, so settle in and get used to that. Let's dig right in with his leadership, because this guy's got an incredible kit. And it's a few years old, and it still holds up. It's just nuts. All right, General of the 501st. All units can't be revived. Yes, that includes Galactic Legends. All 501st allies have plus 50% critical damage. When an enemy gains a buff, all 501st allies gain 2% offense stacking until the end of the encounter. While there are other active 501st allies, General Skywalker can't drop below 100% health, advances if he has 100% protection, and takes cover if he has 0% protection at the end of every turn. He removes all other status effects when he takes cover, and then when he leaves cover, he recovers 100% protection and takes a bonus turn when all other 501st allies are defeated. All right. The advance effect is, so he has these two unique effects going on, advance and cover. So think of him as positions or stances. So the advance position is where he starts the fight. He has an undispellable taunt. You can't get around it. The only way to get around is if somebody else is taunting, I guess. And then other 501st allies can't lose health. So you can chip down their protection, but until he's in the cover stance, you can't actually kill off his allies through their health. Alright, and while he goes into cover, he can't be targeted. He's immune to damage and status effects. His speed is set to 0. So he's effectively removed from the board. You can't do anything to manipulate him while he's in cover. Alright? And then he's going to recover 10% protection and turn meter at the end of every turn taken, ally and enemy. That bonus is doubled for 501st allied turns, and this can't be prevented. This turn meter gain, protection gain can't be prevented. So because you get that double bonus out of your 501st allies, we basically need the 4 of them to take a turn and 2 enemies to go. And that adds up to being your 100% turn meter, and then he comes back out swinging, right? Okay, let's get into his base unique, Hero with No Fear. At the start of battle, General Skywalker gains 25% defense, 15% max protection, and 25% tenacity for each other 501st ally until all other 501st allies are defeated. If all allies are 501st at the start of battle, General Skywalker gains the following: 100% counter chance and 50% critical chance. And then while other allies are defeated, when all other allies are defeated, General Skywalker can't be critically hit and gains 35% turn meter after every enemy turn. This is nuts. So this is what makes Gas such an effective tank for his team until his team is gone. The 100% counter chance and the 50% critical chance are a major incentive to run Gas as the leader of the 501st. I mean, obviously this isn't his lead ability, but when it's a full 501st team, this 100% counter chance is hideous. And the 50% crit chance means that we need to put no particular effort into adding critical chance. We can just throw on a crit damage triangle with confidence that we're going to get value out of that. However, it's been meta for a couple seasons to throw in Captain Rex with Gas 501st. Like you drop out Arc Trooper to put him in. And this has blocked out some lesser counters historically. Like Bounty Hunters, for example. Things like that. It also makes, I want to say, CLS harder, stuff of that kind. But it does open you up to other counters because part of the threat profile of this team is every time you're hitting Gas, as long as he's leading a full 501st team, he's slapping you back and slapping you back. And as we go on through the rest of this kit, you'll see why that's terrible. That's a very bad thing. Okay, his next unique, the Chosen One. General Skywalker uses an additional ability during his turn. Whenever General Skywalker critically hits an enemy during his turn, increase their cooldowns by 1, excluding raid bosses and galactic legends, which can't be resisted. If he is critically hit, General Skywalker dispels all debuffs on himself. Enemies attacking out of turn can't critically hit. So, yeah, we don't need to put any particular emphasis on potency to gain the benefit of this cooldown increase effect, but he does apply daze in his kit, so incidental amounts of potency are not terrible. We'll get into that. Alright, on to his basic, Furious Slash. Deal physical damage to target enemy. This attack can't be evaded and has 65% defense penetration, tripled if all allies are 501st. So there may be times when your gas could be blinded, and it's important to remember that while his specials could be evaded, this basic cannot. So you can always use this to do something, right? Alright, if this is the first ability General Skywalker uses during his turn, he immediately uses the special ability Telekinesis if able. Telekinesis says, deal physical damage to target enemy. If possible, this attack will critically hit enemies with Armor Shred. If the target enemy is dazed, reduce General Skywalker's ability cooldowns by 1. Helps bring his specials back around. And these are very significant. So remember, the Chosen One says that whenever we do an ability, we get a bonus, ability. So that's why you do, basic into telekinesis. Now we'll see how the specials work. First, Sundering Strike. Deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict Armor Shred. If they are dazed, this attack deals double damage. If this is the first ability General Skywalker uses during his turn, reset Force Grip's cooldown and use it if possible. Alright. So you can use this and follow right into Force Grip, the next special. Deal physical damage to all enemies and daze them for 2 turns. If possible, this attack will critically hit enemies with Armor Shred. If this is the first ability General Skywalker used during his turn, reset Sundering Strike's cooldown and use it if possible. So you can see that there's kind of a choice to make in how you want to get your bonuses, right? Do you want to have Armor Shred down? Do you want to gain a benefit from critically hitting enemies who have Armor Shred from the first special? Or do you want to do double damage to enemies that are dazed? So maybe you might want to, use this against somebody who's dazed if it's like an extra squishy target or somebody you could confidently make sure would go down, like with this ability. Otherwise, this might do a lot more damage, but most commonly, you're opening up with Force Grip. There's definitely occasions where you can go the other way, so that's not a hard and fast rule by any means. Okay, so enough about his kit. Let's talk about team comps and turn order. Again, everything that you see on this page is shown in order of desired turn order. Okay, so not leader, all right? General Skywalker is, of course, our lead, but our fastest character will be Rex, then ARC Trooper, Gas, followed by Echo, and then Fives last. In 3 versus 3, Gas, Rex, and Fives is the premier team. It does the most on offense, and it requires the most to beat on defense. It is the apex version of the team. That being said, Rex, Krex, and Fives, Rex, Zaris, and Fives, these characters are historically decent 3 versus 3 teams, so a lot of people like to part out their Rex and Fives for that purpose, and Gas can then lead Arc and Echo. This team is still pretty good on offense. Like, it punches above its weight on offense, but if you put it on defense, historically, it gets beat up by Wampa. All right? It's just really not good. Like, you could still technically win Wampa versus this composition in 3 versus 3, but Rex is a threat unto himself just for being there, so nothing's guaranteed. And then, 5 versus 5, depending on how many characters go ahead of Gas, you can be vulnerable to Wampa. But if you have this turn order, you're doing pretty good. All right. Yeah, so yeah, team comps and turnover is pretty much covered there. I think we can get right back into the modding spec itself. Okay, so of course your own mods are going to dictate what you can pull off, but we're going to talk about what's optimal for him, and I'll try and give some flexibility from there. This guy wants it all. He wants a huge amount of protection because that will keep him in the advanced position as long as possible, right? And then when he goes down into cover, he'll recover all that protection back and stand back up. And so if he has this large protection pool, it's very, very discouraging to your opponent. If they don't get down all of his allies the first time he goes into cover, he stands back up, and now he's that much more charged, right? Any buffs you've been gaining on your team, he's been gaining offense. Whether or not he's in the cover stance, he still benefits from that offense gain on his leadership, so he's a ticking time bomb, right? So we see that we want the high protection to maximize his advance time. At the same time, we also want him to have a strong amount of offense because we want him to start at a decent, good, respectable high level of offense, and then start immediately building into the crazy territory, right? So if you decided to go with full defense sets on your gas instead of going with like a mix of offense and defense, it's not crazy. It's just it takes a lot longer for him to build up to the kind of offense where if he does get a turn, somebody's going bye-bye, right? So again, let's dig into the sets. Offense and defense are my recommended set types. For primaries, strongly recommend protection for the arrow, the cross, and the circle. All right. Crit damage triangle. And now, as far as stat like targets and priorities, mine's Relic 9. Mine is one of the like craziest, most tricked out gases in the game, and I frequently tinker with his mods because I just love this character. But this, I think, is going to be the most convenient way for us to talk about his stats. I have exactly 0 health added onto him. You should try to optimize for the lowest added health you can get because historically one of the premier counters to General Skywalker is CLS. The full CLS team with, Chewie, Han, C-3PO, and Chewpio. And one of the reasons that team works so well is because of the expose mechanic. Expose says that, when it gets triggered, it does damage to the target equal to 20% of its max health. And it's true damage, okay? So by having him with exactly +0 health added, we are minimizing the amount of damage that General Skywalker will take from being exposed. So that's one kind of tricky thing to think about. Other than that, you see that I've just thrown on a ton of protection, and I mean a ton. I really optimized for this. You've got those primaries going, and I try and pick up as much as I can through secondaries. I've got some really bonkers ones, like some 10 plus, 11 plus percents. So you have to cultivate the best mods to fit General Skywalker. That's why he's such a great long-term project, and I have revamped and rebuilt on these mods over the years. It's all about pushing in the right direction. So having this high protection is great. Speed, I would say I've seen excellent players have him maybe as low as 240, but I don't recommend that. I would say not slower than 260. Him building, you being able to tack on speed is probably one of the lowest priorities for him, because especially if you're going to be running him as the leader of the full 501st, you have this high protection to keep you in the advanced stance. You're going to build for high offense so that when you have the 100% counter chance popping off, you're slapping hard, right? So when you're doing all these counters, your speed doesn't really matter, and you've got turn meter gain effects from Rex, from Gas's own kit, later on in the fight. Like, you don't need a ton of speed. I just happened to, over time, build up some mods that had all these other great stats I'm looking for, and incidentally happened to be increasingly fast. He was like 260, then he was at like 285, like 280, then 285, and now 290, something like that. We go for the crit damage triangle. For the reasons we already said, he gets that extra 50% crit chance from his first unique, I want to say. And yeah, we're just going to be slapping all the harder for that. Potency is decent here, actually. Because we have gains from applying days, we want to apply days where we can. It's a really great effect. Adding potency on is not bad. These particular mods that I have on right now, we dropped a few percent. I was just over 72%, maybe another 5% potency higher. The higher potency you have, the more natively General Skywalker can threaten something like Gar ISC. If you're a fan of my stream, I have used just Gar and Imperial Super Commando to take on a full 5-man Gas 501st team. And that's predicated on being able to resist days. Because if you can't actually counterattack with those two, the jig is up. So having a higher base potency on General Skywalker has an advantage against that budget counter. And, to a lesser extent, things like CLS. Okay, fine. But it's hard to find budget for everything. So as we go on here, you'll see why. It's nice to have, but it's hard to come by for what this character really wants. Physical offense. Now, my character is Relic 9. You figure if you're a Relic 7, you can take maybe 1,500 offense off, something like that. So you can definitely be somewhere around, 10,500, something like that at Relic 7. But building very high offense into these mods requires some pretty crazy secondaries. And when we're done talking just about the general stat profile, I'll show you the individual mods. This character really deserves paying attention to the individual mods because he's extremely demanding. Anyway, 11.3k offense is very, very high for him being in the setup that he's in. There's no offense primaries, so he's just got some great secondaries rolling to get up to a number this high. But you can see that it's pretty much. Let me think about it. Probably protection over offense, I would say, are kind of like the top two lines. And I could be a little flexible about that. It depends on what your mods actually are. If you skewing towards offense means that you add no protection on the mod, whereas you could have a little less offense, but a ton of protection added, or that case flipped. You're looking for the best optimization, I'd say, between those two stats. All right, and you see that he has a native crit chance of 65%. So with that 50% from his unique, he's doing great. And even if you should choose to run him not as the leader of the 501st, he still has 65% base crit chance. So if you're planning on using him widely elsewhere, I would say baking in up to 15% more crit chance into his mods would be a decent case to make if you're mostly using him outside of being elite. I really would not go to this effort, though, myself. And I haven't over the years. Physical survivability. So, him having all this protection is one element to him staying in the advanced posture, right? The other element is actually reducing his damage taken. So that's why we take the 2-piece of defense as opposed to something like health, all right? The armor is going to keep us standing with our strong prot pool that much longer, all right? So let's look at the individual mods themselves. Again, these took years to build up, so if you don't have all of this kind of stuff, don't be discouraged. This is a goal to go for. If you didn't have a great protection primary to start with, let's say start with speed then. Maybe you've got some decent secondaries on there. As time goes on, maybe the next thing that's best over speed, going all the way up to protection being the best one, from speed maybe go up to an offense primary. Then, if you can, when you can, that protection, there's no better slot than protection here. But what I'm trying to tell you is, this stuff is demanding. Don't get discouraged. Work at it over time, and it'll be worth it. So yeah, protection primary with flat protection on it, percent offense, flat offense, and speed. It's literally one of my favorite mods in the entire inventory. It's incredible. It's even got one reroll left on it that would cost 150, I want to say, calibration materials. If I were extra super greed, I could re-roll the slice of flat to try and get more speed or even a little more flat offense. But quite frankly, I don't need the speed. This guy's already wicked fast. He does not need to be 290 like he is. So it's not something I need to compromise. Not a good use of materials. All right, this triangle, yeah, crit damage. Again, strong offense secondary. Remember, an offense primary is 8.5% offense, so we're getting the majority of these benefits here through strong secondaries, okay? High speed, percent defense is great, complementing our two-piece, and that even little smidge of potency doesn't go to waste, like we discussed. All right, his cross, again, protection with percent offense, and flat protection. Like, mwah, just beautiful stuff, right? Again, then we got his circle here. Again, protection primary, big percent offense, flat protection, little bit of percent defense, and strong speed. This one, percent offense. And, this one I'm actually a little conflicted on. This mod is great. So it's 5% offense on 4 rolls, almost 8% protection on 3 rolls, flat defense on a percent defense primary, and then 19 speed. Truthfully, it doesn't keep me up at night, but it is something I think about kind of often, about whether or not I should roll away a slice of speed from this mod to try to pick up either offense or protection. It's something I think about. But I still haven't pulled the trigger because it still feels wrong. But you can see why. If this mod is staying with this character long term, there's a case to be made. And then, last but not least, his square. So again, decent speed, percent defense, flat defense, and then almost 12% protection on a secondary. So that's what I'm saying. These things are nuts. Most of the mods that I've shown, or most of my characters that I've covered in this series so far, have mods where the set types are something that everybody can go to and they can obtain, and the particular mods themselves are not so hard to come by. I will say this is a project, but it's a project worth doing. This character pays out huge dividends. As far as applications go, now I could pull up the chart like I've done in other seasons, but basically, historically, this guy could take on Rey. It destroys anything that requires some type of revival mechanic for it to work, right? So you're talking about your dash hondos, your nests. I'm actually hearing word on the wind that in the current 5 vs. 5 season that we're in right now, this is at the time when Queen Amidala is out with the Padawan Obi-Wan Datacron. So huge, enormous damage from this team. And I'm hearing that Gas is actually able to take it on. And this is at a time when, like, Leia is failing. Some people's Darth Banes are failing. Slacker nearly failed me the other day. So you're talking about a situation here in 2024 where this character from years and years ago is potentially producing better outcomes against things that you're otherwise using Galactic Legends to be. So I look forward to covering the other characters in this series. But yeah, feel free to look up on Swugga.gg and any of the many uses of Gas on offense. He's just a slaughterhouse. Like in 3 vs. 3, I really have enjoyed historically using him to put down Tuskens. Tuskens are one of the nastiest teams to deal with in 3 vs. 3. So just absolutely gone. They can't deal, that the reviving Tusken Raider, he don't come back. So, all right, guys, stay tuned for the next characters coming up in the 501st. Really appreciate the feedback and the encouragement. You guys keep me going making these, so I really need it. I really need it. There's never a wrong time to have encouragement, and I especially appreciate it these days. So thank you so much. I really, really do appreciate it. All right, and until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.